Welcome in, folks. Way bit of a different video today. We're going to be discussing the Mick Gordon and Bethesda drama that's been going on that apparently was put to sleep about 2 years ago, and in the last couple of days has just completely been reopened by Mick Gordon. The man has taken 2 years out of his life, right through the COVID spell, and apparently got himself a doctorate in being a lawyer. Because this man has created one of the greatest comeback stories I have ever read. Mick Gordon, if you don't know, is considered the Hans Zimmer of the gaming universe, okay? Pretty much, if he's on your project, you're in for a winner here. Like, it is completely unlikely that this man will deliver a bad score. Mick Gordon has produced the Doom soundtrack, the Prey soundtrack, which I think went a little bit under the radar, but amazing soundtrack. And if you're a TikTok person, you've probably heard one of his songs, very simply, just through this track right here. And then usually around now there's a voice that goes, "Hi-ya!" Okay, so that one. What happened was 2 years ago, Marty Strachan decided to come out and make an open Reddit letter, just absolutely tarnishing Mick, calling him lazy, calling him difficult to work with, saying that he wasn't going to meet deadlines and so on, and pretty much just making anyone that wanted to work with Mick Gordon pretty much just reconsider. You know, getting a reputation like that as an audio engineer, it's deadly. It could put you in the ground purely because people don't want to work with you. They feel like it's easier to go alternative routes and just find someone that altogether you might just find more likable. However, one of the greatest comebacks on this planet has happened, and Mick has turned around and made a 14,000 word dissertation, including a table of contents. And not only that, provides evidence through receipts, all dated to signify why Marty is wrong and why he was mistreated, and everything that he said in that Reddit was completely false and had justification behind his actions. The man has literally went to Harvard in those 2 years, got some advice on how to become a lawyer, and used every little skill that he attained to destroy Marty here. So we're going to dive into that a little bit. Mainly starting with, when we're looking at the table of contents here, going over why, I don't know, he's called out that he hasn't even been paid for over half the work for Doom Eternal's score, which is, unbelievable. Especially when you consider that these are, big companies like Bethesda getting behind these, so how would they not know what's going on? Kind of saying on what the problem is with the original soundtrack, the OST, going into the aftermath of how it's kind of left him, and then just leaving a list of every little bit of evidence so that it can all be fact-checked beforehand. Now, those of you that don't know me, I've had a sound engineering degree for a good part of coming up to 4 years. And when you look at how the audio files for the tracks that Mick mixed and mastered compared to the tracks that he didn't, it isn't even comparable. Like, you could point to the WAV files and just say, that's one of Mick's, that's one that isn't. But we'll get into that in a little bit. Just to really cement home how good Mick is, on a spectrograph, he used the frequency to make the number 666 as well as draw a pentagram, all just for the original Doom. I have no idea how you would even remotely start to go about that, but the process that this man takes to put the effort in order to get those effects and get those answers, unparalleled. Like, genuinely believe it would give Danny Elfman a run for his money. We have to look here. I mean, we open up here with him immediately just shitting on the Reddit, saying that, originally what happened was, and the reason why the soundtrack had such a poor release was the fact he said, "I made myself entirely available to Marty and committed to satisfying disappointed customers with a better original soundtrack. Marty made it clear he wanted me involved, saying he wanted a positive outcome, had no ill intentions, and wanted to resolve the issue professionally, trying to make sure that they get the best quality out of the soundtrack as possible." In order to counter that, Marty offered to make a draft joint statement addressing the situation and announcing plans to move forward, and also requested that he hold off, this is Mick, hold off on making further public comments until they could address the public together, right? Instead, Marty had other plans. Marty decided to go on Reddit and put out the open letter that is now famously known, again, just completely destroying Mick, just trying to make it seem like he was the problem and that he just wasn't going to deliver and effectively just not be a good worker. And then Mick's words here. Worst of all, he did it behind my back whilst leading me on a bullshit story about working together on a professional solution to the problem. He's left him in the dirt. Now, this all kind of gets a bit worse when we consider the fact that Mick hasn't been paid for over half the work, but then on top of that, they offered him 6 figures to stay quiet about it. Even after the statement was put out, they offered him 6 figures to just look the other way and go, maybe not. You know, let's just keep this under wraps, make sure that there's no issues. Now, rightly so, Mick has made this effort to do all this, and phenomenal. It's great to see that he's actually trying to get paid, because at the end of the day, that is illegal. You can't just not pay someone for their work, no matter how many minutes they've put into it, because usually with albums or scores, it goes along a track basis or a minute of work basis, saying that the score of each track, we need 3 minutes worth of, a boss fight area. We need about 30 seconds worth of platforming area. So they kind of work on that basis of what needs to get paid out and how many minutes it takes towards getting to that. It kind of comes across here in Mick's statement when he chats about the awards that the Doom Eternal soundtrack received, because it says here, I'm happy to hear Marty feels I deserve Doom's music awards, because the truth is, those trophies are kept locked in the id Software office. I've only ever seen them once behind glass from a distance. Nobody has offered to send me copies. Thanks to the show's producers, I was invited to perform at the Game Awards, but other than that, id Software never invited me to collect awards in person. Marty invited himself to collect the awards on my behalf instead. It would mean a lot to have a memento of all the hard work I poured into the Doom franchise, but as it currently stands, I doubt we'll ever see those awards again. He's literally just called out the fact that Marty, even though he was offered to go to the Game Awards and Mick could have went ahead and received them, Marty just put himself forward to receive on his behalf. And he still probably won't ever see that, because there's not a chance that they're going to let that go. Maybe this will all bring it out. Hopefully they do what's right. Hopefully they treat Mick with the respect that he deserves. Because like I said, Mick is not just like another day-to-day engineer. He is one of the greatest in the gaming field that has ever been, and probably ever will be, because he cares that much. I mean, the process that the man puts in is it's unattainable to you or I. So this kind of leads us to the quality of the tracks and kind of where it went wrong. And they were passed down to id Software's lead engineer, Chad Mossholder, an in-house engineer that, when you look at it, even for myself, this is mid-work. Again, I'll show the files here, the WAV files on screen. However, you can immediately see that the cropping on the top of one of them, this is the reason why these are easily to point out who it is. The way that it's cut off is due to the mastering usually, and it means that nothing can peak. And usually a way to get around that is in the recording process, where you just don't let anything peak, like with microphones or such. But this man is literally went, here's all the peaks, and let's just limit it. Cut it down before it even gets ahead of itself, from the looks of things at least. He may have just over-compressed it, which just means that the sound of it just feels really, bare. It kind of just feels empty. Whereas the one that we see that's clearly Mick Gordon's, you can kind of see it fluctuates in a nice way, but nothing peaks. So you can definitely tell the dynamics of the piece purely from looking at the WAV file. That leads us to Bethesda's statement. We're all aware of the details and history in the matter and unequivocally support Marty, Chad, and the team at id Software. We reject the distortion of the truth and selective presentation of incomplete facts. Now, facts being in quotes here, when Mick Gordon has literally submitted evidence, seems like a real kick to the teeth to him. It seems like they really just want to belittle anything that they think he has. I mean, when you have evidence, the only way I can see them kind of breaking that is that maybe they can break the timeline that he's giving, or maybe they have something in the back that we don't know about, but mainly unlikely, because if they did, you would just put it now. Like, why hold the charade of we have it ready for you, but we're not going to show you it just yet. It doesn't make sense. We stand ready with full and complete documented evidence to disclose, and an appropriate venue is needed. It just doesn't feel like they do. because you would just put it here to shut it down. The statement posted online has incited harassment and threats of violence against Marty, Chad and the id Software team. Any threats or harassment directed towards members of our team will be met with swift and appropriate action to protect their health and safety. Now, the bit that kind of gets me here, Mick's already addressed this in his tweet, making sure to point out, he said, Marty's post severely impacted my professional and personal reputation. In releasing this statement, I'm exercising my right to defend myself. It's a defence, not an unprovoked attack, issued with extreme reluctance only after all other attempts to resolve the matter have failed. This statement is not an excuse for a hate campaign. Acts of hate dished out online won't result in any positive change. It will only make things worse. But sadly, we live in this day and age where the internet just wants to take control of that over anything. You're gonna get shitheads that just want to cause problems and want to get violent just for the sake of it. I'm sure nothing will come of it, but at least they've put it out. I'll give Bethesda that. We remain incredibly proud of id's previous collaborations with Mick Gordon and ask that fans refrain from reaching conclusions based on his account, and more importantly, from attacking any individuals mentioned on either side, including Marty, Chad or Mick. This kind of leaves us in an awkward place now, because Bethesda have kind of closed the door, but are kind of suggesting they've got more in the back, that they're kind of got the ammunitions ready to come forward and prove Mick wrong. What will it benefit Bethesda in order to put Mick down here? Probably not that much. All it will do is kind of ruin Mick Gordon's reputation slightly more, maybe call him for being a liar, kind of like what happened with the Bayonetta 3 situation, if you've been keeping up with that. However, I just feel like there's no real benefit. I hope Mick Gordon gets through this. I'm sure it won't damage his reputation too much more, and if anything, will probably boost him into creating, getting more lines of work coming in, purely because there's no such thing as bad press at this point for him. Like, regardless, unless all his evidence is a complete shamble, then I can't really see it going much differently. But that's where I'm going to leave this one here. I want to know your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to leave them there. But yeah, I'm going to leave this one there. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.